Hello team, in this video we are going to discuss our emotional triggers. Now this is a follow-up to the previous video that emotions are in fact skills. So I hope you've watched that and you've started to digest that thought process, because this concept can radically change your life. Now ultimately what we're looking at with an emotional trigger is something that puts us in that reactive state where we are basically like a prisoner to our emotions, and we're just freewheeling it and not really in control of how we feel or react. So as a part of emotional mastery and learning how to actually skillfully navigate your emotions, we want to understand our triggers. Now our triggers can be varied, but I've listed a few here which are common for most people, and that creates coping behaviours. So we're going to look at that and then ultimately how we can flip that around with some replacement behaviour that doesn't actually sabotage your results and sabotage your progress, and actually makes you feel better instead of feeling worse. So let's look at them. So rejection, really common one. Feeling unworthy, loneliness, stress, whether it be work or relational related, comparison to other people, and then financial. Obviously money has a massive impact on our emotions. So these are some of the triggers that we can have. And obviously, we go through these kind of experiences, and then we're in an emotional state, we're in a heightened state of needing to feel better. So we turn to certain coping behaviors, and these can be things like increased device use. Now, commonly, this was never a thing, 30, 40, 50 years ago, but we get a massive dopamine hit when we use social media devices, for example, or sitting down watching Netflix. It's going to increase your levels of dopamine. So you're getting those little hits, but ultimately that's just going to leave you feeling flat, exhausted. It's not really giving anything to your body. Comfort eating is a massive one, because we just crave sugar when we're stressed. We also crave fats, and those high carby foods. So those things like pasta, pizza, chocolates, late at night, ice cream. We're going to see an increase in that when we're in a highly volatile emotional state. Alcohol and drugs, another massive one, so that can be, people have turned to that for many a year, and obviously we know the detriments that has on oneself. So these are some of the ways that people cope, but ultimately a lot of people just kind of stay in that place. They never actually move beyond the coping behavior. They never ask themselves the reason, why do I feel the way that I feel? They don't ask themselves good quality questions to try and break that cycle. Now, some people, enjoy that pattern of life, that up and down and that roller coaster. Others, they don't. They want to get off the roller coaster. They just don't know how to do it. Well, I'm here to show you how to do this. And firstly, what we have to do is we have to understand the origin, or the root, the seed of where our triggers actually come from. So often this is in a place of childhood, when we're growing up, certain ways we were parented. That can create certain origin root beliefs about ourselves. There's also trauma that can be involved. We all have different varying levels of trauma, and then our own internal beliefs around who we think we are, when in actual case, most of the time, most people actually don't even know who they are. What they think they know is, society's version of themselves, because they live in such a state of comparison and feeling like they don't measure up or they're not good enough. When none of that is true, obviously. Like, we know that your worth is not about your works, it's in your internal character. So when we start to realign the way that we think about ourselves, we start to get a bit more clarity on some of the things that have happened to us that have formed certain behavioural patterns, certain coping mechanisms for emotional stress. When we see that for what it is, and we see that as just story, that's just stuff that's happened, but it doesn't need to be what happens forever. We have the ability to change that, but first we need the awareness. So we must become aware of not only our triggers, but a level deeper of their why. Why do I have my triggers? When we have that awareness, it clicks. It clicks because then you go, okay, I can disempower this, and I can start to move into a position of self-love, self-care, and changing these hardwired self-limiting behaviors. And I know there's so many, and it feels like it sometimes, why do I always do this? Why do I always do this? Well, this is why. It's hardwired. It's conditioned into our psychology. So what we have to do is we have to become aware, and then we have to create replacement behavior. We can't just, rip the Band-Aid off because, there'll be an itch there. We have to fill the gap somehow. We still need to get that dopamine hit. We still need to kind of fill our cup. And we do that in different ways. So we start to do that through exercise. That's a great way to release dopamine into your system. Through meditation and deep breathing, that's going to calm your nervous system. Through your spiritual side, that might not be your thing, but there's so many different variations of spirituality. And if it's something that you're interested in, it's worth pursuing because it can bring peace into your life. Connecting with nature, talking and being open about your actual struggles and your triggers. Because what we do is we tend to hide behind them. We don't want people to know the areas in our life where we lack control. And that's an insecurity, fear. And that's completely normal. But what I've found is the more that I've shared about my own personal, limitations and some of the things that I struggle with, the less they had a stronghold over me. And so that's why I open up and I share them to, the people that are important in my life. The close, meaningful relationships, the people that actually love me and really care about me, they know about the things that I've struggled with. And that's amazing because you realize you're not by yourself. So I implore you, when you do get that aha moment on the kind of things that might be just your one or two things that you need, to work on, it's great to have some accountability, but to just share and be a bit vulnerable in that place, because you'll find that, no one's ashamed of those things. People are so supportive with this stuff. And just knowing that, it completely disempowers these emotional triggers and allows you to move past them. So what we really have to do is we've got to break the stronghold. And this is the way we do it. So there's a process there. We identify a trigger. We identify the coping behavior. We look at the root, and then we cut that root off. We flip that on its head because we know it's not real. It's just story. And then we start to fill ourselves with replacement behavior. Now, I really hope that helps you. And if you have any issues with emotional triggers, please feel free to reach out and I'll help in any way I can. And I'll see you in the next video.